(2023) Mother Gaia, third dimensional planet, ascending into fourth dimensional collective consciousness. Azure,
Grand Rising Captain.
can you give me the update on third dimensional planet Gaia?
Yes, Christo, with pleasure. Gaia 3D currently is under critical condition. It seems there is a large amount of humans that have forgotten who they are, causing confusion, division and war driven by fear.
Thank you, Azure. Before we head down to Gaia, can you give me any information about the 3D world, as it's been a while since I've been there?
Sure, the 3D Gaia. We will face much resistance from negative polarity beings as a dual plane. Karma and Dharma are in effect. There is free will. It will be wise to protect our energy and hold love.
Alright, thank you, Azure. Sounds like we have quite the task at our hands. But that's why we're here, and that's why we've been called upon in the Galactic Federation to go down to planet Gaia, the 3D realm. Alright, Azure, let's get ourselves ready to go. Let's hit the time portal and make sure we land in the present day, Mother Gaia, third dimension. Whoa, oopsies. Yeah, not that one. Okay, let's try this one. Maybe this is the portal. Oh yeah, Azure, this is a little too far in the future. I think we need to kind of go back a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Modern day Earth.
Captain Christo, as we approach, I will prepare our guest suite on the mothership for the souls we hold space for. Oh, and Captain, I will be sure to leave plenty of storage for earthly food delights to take for our travels.
Oh my gosh, Azure, you never fail to make me laugh. You know those earthly delights? That good old food of earth. Absolutely gotta have that food of earth. Thank you, Azure. Alright. It is time. It's time to make our way down to 3D Gaia. To hold space, show love, compassion, bridge the conscious collective, and help provide knowledge and wisdom and tools so fellow souls can remember who they are, live in a unified mind state with a harmonious being, with holistic, conscious practices and tools that they may access efficiently and quantumly.
Welcome aboard. I am Azure. Please get cozy. Grab a tea, snacks or crystals as we prepare for a sacred light conversation. The sacred holding space is down the hall to the left. Wholeness, balanced love.
Alright, Azar, it's finished. I met with their leader. It's time for me to come back to 3D Gaia, so I can bring back the peace, the offering. And how is it going down there on the Earth plane? Are they letting up at all?
Captain, it appears they have a fleet over 3D Gaia and will not let off until they hear from Blue Star Woman.
Blue Star Woman, come in. We could really use your assistance right now. We need someone that can connect with and give mediation for these extraterrestrials.
Blue Star Woman Barbara Meister Vitale is an international lecturer, director of the Meta Intelligence Institute and in the leading edge of intuitive management. Barbara is of Celtic bloodline trained by her grandmother. 1986 was made a relative by the Lakota. She is trained in Maori, Aboriginal and star knowledge from Mexico and Peru. She has taught for 20 years with gifted students. Barbara is the author of 3 books, 2 are bestsellers. Unicorns Are Real, Free Flight and Beyond Imagination. Now she joins us for a sacred light conversation to deepen our wisdom and connection with all. Grab your snacks and joy.
Grand day, wholeness and balanced love, everybody. It is Marcus Christolight here of Sacred Light Healing and Wellness, and we are here for another edition of my Sacred Light Conversations podcast, as we are here to continue to bridge community and to help supply knowledge, wisdom, and our stories for the collective, so we may be able to have access to a more deeper, more expansive, and efficient repertoire of knowledge and wisdom for us to be able to integrate into our daily lives, so that we may be able to have a more holistic and conscious approach to our daily self-life. And today on this podcast episode, we are going to be taking a journey and an exploration into the life of a wonderful, sacred, divine sister and grandmother of spirit. She is, wow, where do I begin? Barbara Meister Vitale, known as Blue Star Woman, is an international lecturer, director of the Meta Intelligence Institute. She also represents the leading edge of intuitive management, the brain-mind integration, many different healing modalities, and spiritual growth. Blue Star Woman is of the Celtic bloodline, trained by her grandmother in the ancient beliefs. 1986, Barbara was made an official relative to the Lakota people. Since then, she has been trained in several traditions, many different cultures and ceremonies, and this ranging from Aboriginal to star knowledge from Mexico and Peru. Barbara has been a teacher for 20 years, taught elementary through college, being a teacher to help those with disabilities and other gifted aspects. Barbara is also an author, and not just an author, but an author of 2 best-selling books. One of those being Unicorns Are Real, and the second, Free Flight. Bless you. And she has also been an editor in the book Circle of Life by grandfather James Dubray. And then last, her newest book, Beyond Imagination, is a book and story about the path that she has walked in this human incarnation, dealing with the experiences that she has had to heal and bring restoration to on her journey. We are joined today on this episode of the podcast by the Blue Star Woman, Barbara Meister Vitale. Thank you, Barbara, for joining us, being open to sharing your light, your experiences, and anything else that comes through today. Welcome.
Palamia.
Wow. What a beautiful way to kick off the week on this podcast. So as we begin, my first question to you is, what was your life like growing up? And as much as you feel comfortable to share, and what was the experiences and what was life like for you that led you into your spiritual awakening or developing a deeper awareness to the self and the all?
I think I'll probably start before I got here, and that is that I remember when I was still in the spirit world, and there was a spirit guide standing next to me, and he said to me, "You do not have to do all of this in this lifetime." And I, still in my ego on the other side, I said, "Oh, don't worry, I won't forget." Then I remember going down the birthing channel and having all the knowledge that I had squeezed out. And so I entered this world forgetting everything that I had promised to do, my soul's purpose, and any knowledge that I had. And it was a very frightening experience. And then as a small child, it was like I could see into the other worlds. I saw the fairies and talked to the animals and talked to the plants and spent a great deal of my time out in the woods, the fields, when we lived at my grandmother's. Now, when my mother was a alcoholic, cocaine using schizophrenic. So the abuse that I experienced actually opened doors for me. And as I learned later and went to see her in the hospital to tell her that I forgave her, and this voice yelled at me and said, "How dare you forgive her? You get down on your knees and honor her because she came here to be your greatest teacher." And so that's the day I got freedom. But, you know, when she locked me in closets, I just left and went to other places. It was like seeing into other worlds with her were scary but normal. And so I got both mirrors, my mother, who was abusive, and my grandmother, who was a healer and a practitioner and taught me the Celtic ways. So in those two ways, I moved through that early childhood and never felt any real trauma. In a way that affected me. I seemed to be able to understand from a very early age that I wasn't from here, that I was visiting, and that I could go into any world that I wanted to at any time.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it's really fascinating. You know, we find that we go through what can seem like very negative or very dark experiences. And through those quote unquote negative or dark experiences, we are able to almost access or become more deeply aware of something higher or something, you know, more spiritual or more deeply connected to a higher power of some sort within ourselves during those periods. And it truly is very, very powerful and beautiful when we're able to look back in hindsight after we go through an experience and be able to see where we can find, as I've called it throughout the years, the blessings in disguise. And you know, when I had went through my dark times of when I went to prison for a year, I was submerged in what could have been a tragic time, so to say. But I was able to find really deeper and higher aspects of myself during that period. And being kind of placed in that place of isolation and darkness, I was able to really go deeper into myself and find a more matured aspect and view of who I was on a spiritual standpoint. And through that, it catapulted me and led me into teaching other inmates meditation, as well as finding myself more gifted and capable than I even realized by the divine. And to get back out into the world after that and start really becoming devoted and faithful to these gifts of energies and transformation that is able to come through my being. And through that, it led me to where I am today, ultimately with this podcast, and even being able to interact and come into a space with such a wonderful divine figure like yourself. And yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your walk. Thank you for your journey, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, I do want to say something here, because I don't like to be put on pedestals. It's a long ways down when you fall off.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that are listening, I want to share part of my life that I don't always share, and that is that I was an alcoholic. I was a party girl. I did many, many things that were not considered spiritual. At one point, I was an atheist, to the point that I did not believe at all in anything evil. And someone dared me to go to a satanic meeting, which I thought, it's not real anyway, I'll go. Well, I almost lost my life at that meeting, and it really was the gift of having me begin to study every belief system out there and see what they said about it. And in this dimension here, there are things that are challenging, and if we give them energy, they have strength. So I think that understanding that I'm not this spiritual being, I'm a human being, and hue is the word for light. So I think we're all here in our imperfection, learning to recover or remember that love and light that is our natural existence. I mean, I've tried suicide. So those of you who are listening who say, oh, I could never be like that. Remember, I've got 87 years of practice and a lot of experiences that shook me to the core. The one thing that I would tell you to do is to work on yourself. Because if someone is really healed, then they can walk into a room and change everyone in the room who is open to that change. You simply carry that love and light with you. And the other thing that I told Christopher a little bit earlier is be careful with what you ask for, because this 3D dimension is about learning how what we say and think and our behavior creates our reality. So I mentioned to Christopher that when I was in my 40s and heavily into metaphysics, I said, I want everything that is not of love and light removed from my life, and I want it done now. And within 7 days, I crashed my car, lost my home, my son moved out, I got a divorce, and I lost my job. And everything that was not of pure love and light vanished. So, a more logical way to say it was, I invite more love and light into my life. I focus on love and light. And so when you talk about healing somebody, you're focusing on the illness. So when I had my heart attack last December, which was an incredible gift, I asked people not to send healing because the healing was focusing on what was wrong. And so I asked them to send prayers for me to remember my perfection. Things like greater things than I do, you can do. I am in you. You and I are one. So, if you believe that your God, creator, whomever created you in perfection, and you are a part of that, then it's only your stress your thoughts, your emotions, your triggers that create these illnesses. So, you know, in my heart attack, why, my heart was out without blood for 30 minutes. And when I went back to my cardiologist, he said to me, I was dreading this appointment. And I said, why? He said, because I knew you wouldn't be who you were. You had such a severe heart attack. And I looked at him and I said, I'm fine. He said, how did you do that? I said, I used prayer, ceremony, and focused my mind on being whole and perfect. So it was a great gift. The only thing I'm finding is that I'm kind of in two worlds. And if you were watching me earlier, why, it's like I'm not totally connected to my body. So oftentimes my head, my arms don't go in the direction I want them to go. So I was doing a lot of this, trying to get my head on straight and get my eyes to look in the right place, because I'm just not attached to it. I'm living in two places right now, and it's absolutely fantastic. So my grandmother taught me to see everything as a gift. When my mother used to lock me in closets, why, I just went someplace else. I never stayed in that closet. I learned to travel to other dimensions when I was 5 years old. So, you know, she was an incredible gift, absolutely incredible. She taught me strength. She taught me how to understand darkness and why it comes in and what causes holes in your aura that can affect your physical body. So that's a lot that I usually don't share. Some of it's in the book, but not all of it. And so, you know, and I didn't read. I was labeled retarded. So I just look back at it and laugh at all of it, because it was all so perfect for where I am right now.
Thank you for that again. You know, that's
one more thing before you talk.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a panic attack. And, you know, in order to have real compassion towards people, you really have to experience something. So the home health nurse came in with this mask that goes over my face. And I told her I didn't like it. And when I was 3 months old, my mother tried to smother me and my father stopped her. So I have a little bit of a phobia about anything over my face. So I put that mask on and I went into a full-fledged panic attack, the only one I've had in my life. And let me tell you, I had to call my grandson and apologize to him and say, I will never, ever again say to you, take a deep breath, be calm. It's not real. Because when you are in a panic attack, you're in a panic attack. And there is absolutely no shutting it off until you resolve the issue that's causing the panic attack. And my grandson just laughed. He said, yeah, that's pretty much the way it is. So when you have something happen to you and then you're gifted with an understanding of it, you know, if you came here to show compassion, to have compassion when you haven't experienced it, is challenging, you know. So I've had a lot of those experiences.
Yeah, it makes it very relatable for us in these human forms when we go through the experiences. So then we develop that wisdom inside of us, and through that wisdom we're able to be vulnerable and be able to hold those spaces and cause those ripples for each other. Wow, so '86 was when you were officially made a relative by the Lakota people. Do you mind sharing about any of this experience and any of this journey?
No, I don't mind, but let me give you some background. I have learned that the universe is working for me, and if something comes into my life, I don't question it. I just follow it. So I was out on the circuit lecturing to corporations and school systems and making a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. And through a set of crazy, crazy circumstances, I ended up on the Pine Ridge Reservation and Standing Rock Reservation, where the Lakota are. And I was training teachers. I wasn't out there for any spiritual reason. I wasn't looking for a spiritual reason. And one of the council members had a grandson who was a non-reader. And she asked me to work with him, and I did. And within 30 minutes, he was reading on grade level. And so I didn't think anything of it, because this is just something that I knew how to do. So I got a phone call that said, "We're going to have a party for you out here. Will you come out?" And I said, "Sure." So I came out and I said, "What do I bring?" And they said, "A pretty dress and your credit card." Well, they weren't kidding, because I got there and we hit the Walmart and all the pawn shops, etc. And I bought and bought and bought. And then I bought a buffalo. And then they had this powwow and everything. And then they took me out in the middle of the floor and gave me the name Wichakpi Towi, which means Blue Star Woman. And paraded me around the gymnasium, and I had no idea what was going on, none whatsoever. So 5 years later, I called up the superintendent, and I had been to a hunka ceremony, or a making of a relative ceremony, and I called him up and I said, "I just went to this gathering, and it looked like that gathering that I had on Standing Rock." And he started laughing and he said, "We wondered how long it would take you to realize you were Lakota." At the time I had bright red hair, so needless to say, I don't look very indigenous, except for being Celtic indigenous. But from then on in, I was just thrown into one ceremony after another and was taught, and ended up walking the Lakota way.
Wow.
So I just follow whatever appears in front of me. If it feels right, if it touches my heart, if I know it's spirit, why then I just don't question it. I just go with it. And
Hmm.
And it takes me some interesting places.
Absolutely. So I see here that you've trained in Aboriginal as well as, now, how do you pronounce this? Is it Morai or Mori?
Maori.
Mori, okay.
From
And what tradition is that?
That's from New Zealand. And my Lakota is stronger than that was, but I worked with an elder by the name of Mackie and another elder by the name of Rose, and learned quite a bit about the energies and the dances and the prayers and their whole different perspective of who they are and what their purpose as a total group is. For instance, in Australia, their purpose is to create this dream time, this reality here on Earth. And when they are gone, that will dissolve. So, you know, it's like baking a cake, and each one of these belief systems is an ingredient in that cake. And if you leave any of them out, you know, the cake's not going to be any good. So each one of the indigenous peoples that I met had a specific purpose, and as to why they were there and what they were doing. One of the funny things about Mackie was he weighed almost 400 pounds. He used to teach women to eat for him and send him the food when he was fasting, which is something that if you're trained in it, you can do it even for sun dancers, but you have to ask permission from the leader. And so he came to me and he said, all these women are out there eating for me and I'm not eating. Look what's happening. And he ate very little, but he just kept gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight because all that was being sent to him. And on the other end of the spectrum, when I was in Argentina, I met an Eritrean, and an Eritrean is someone who learns to take all of their minerals, vitamins, all of their energy from the air, so they don't eat at all. And he was actually at the time Minister of Education, but a most spiritual, interesting. So there is no one way, Christopher. There's just whatever you agreed to do here. You know, if you agreed to train doctors, then you're going to have to be in the hospital a lot or have a lot of challenges so they can watch you heal. So to get down on yourself and to say, I'm doing something wrong because this is happening. No. The universe loves you, and the universe always works on your behalf. Period. And if you are in touch with your heart and with that love, and you're not a victim, you know, no, there are no victims. Nobody does anything to you. You just attract that into your life. And there are fun ways to do it. And, you know, I happen to choose an adventurous, fun thing. And in the book, I put a few examples because I wanted people to understand that this reality of getting up in the morning and going to work and coming home and eating is is not the reality on this planet. There are places where they might as well be on another dimension. The reality is so different, and some of them are. So it's an expansion thing. It's understanding that. But so I don't know how to explain it. I don't know, sometimes I just disappear. Then my husband will go all over the house looking for me, and I'll be sitting in front of my computer and he can't find me. And I don't know that I disappeared. It's just that I was thinking of something with a high vibration and joined with it, and then poof, So I think it's fun.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just fun. And if you look at it as fun, yeah, there are times when to make it fun is challenging, but if I have a pain, I want to know what's causing that pain. What is the belief system, the genetic trauma? What is it? Because it can't exist without an energy behind it.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about doesn't sound very spiritual, because I'm not telling you what you should do or what you have to do, because those words are not in my vocabulary. I have no right to tell you what you should do. And if you do it and it's not within your purpose, I can take on that karma. No, thank you. I've got enough of my own. I don't need to be going around picking up people's karma. Or you must do it. No.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much for that wisdom. And I wanted to touch on for a moment, what you had said about just the experiences that we go through. And the way that I've been looking at it, especially as of late in my most recent years, is I'm able to start seeing the conflicts or the chaos, whatever it is that we would like to label it as, that I experience. I see it as opportunities, and opportunities of, number one, growth, but also opportunity to train myself and practice what it is that I'm wanting to manifest into this world. And it's kind of in alignment with what you said. We ask for certain things and we want to manifest certain things into our reality or to become and embody. But then we also have to realize that with that comes the process of alchemizing or transfiguring into that literal embodiment and vibration field. So when that takes place, if there are certain aspects of our being that have certain resistances, blockages, or other things that are going to keep us from being in that vibrational frequency, then we'll have to be brought to situations of experience that can help mirror, reflect, and help us be able to tap into those aspects, to be able to bring them out to the surface and be able to witness them. And through that witnessing, we're able to go into a conscious state of either release, heal, whatever it is that we may go through in that experience during that time, through our own free will of choice. And I found that the more that I became open to seeing these things as opportunities and gifts to be able to practice the becoming of what it is that I'm wanting to become, it's really brought extraordinary experiences, so to say. So for example, you know, I've really had a passion for wanting to not just completely destroy or get rid of the medical system, but to just integrate and bring a little bit of more light and awareness and holistic depth to the medical field, just to help it expand and grow. And with that, as of the last month, my father has been in the hospital. And through that journey that I've been placed on with him, being basically his legal guardian now, taking care of his medical and legal responsibilities, and really having to show up and be present daily, I've really experienced quite a bit about what goes on inside of these hospitals, as well as the type of procedures and not just the mindset, but the depth of awareness that they have when it comes to the holistic and multidimensional reality of our human being. And with that, I've been gifted with opportunities to be able to stream in some of the knowledge that I've acquired over the years, some of the different wisdom and experiences that I've had in the holistic nature of things. And I've spoken with many different nurses now throughout this last month on the knowledge and the holistic approaches to life. And it's been altering for them. And it's also been altering for me as well, of course, because I'm able to see that what I have coming through me, what I'm a vessel for, is for all. It's for any and all that's available vibrationally to receive. And with that being said, it can be a nurse, it can be a doctor, it can be a homeless guy on the street. And just because somebody has a profession doesn't mean that they know everything possible there is about that profession or the knowledge behind it. And there can always be an opportunity that you may know something that they may not be aware of yet. And when we share that, when we become vulnerable and use our will to want to step outside of that fear, step outside of that feeling of a barrier, oh, I can't share what I know about holistic health because, this guy's a doctor, but when you step through that and you just do it, it's amazing the human connection that you can make beyond the labels and allow spirit to be able to flow. And the next thing you know, they're going home from their job and their day as a doctor and going to research about the reishi mushroom, just like what happened with me the other day. And it's such a beautiful path, and I'm really grateful.
I'm grateful for you. I will tell you, on that same line, when I was in the hospital and after the heart attack, because they made me stay for 5 days, I had an absolute ball, first of all. And one night I didn't want many people in there. So they put a note on the curtain saying, check with the desk before you enter. So the nurse comes in and she says, there's a dirty looking old man out here who wants to come in and see you. And I said, it was about 9 o'clock at night. And I said, well, what's his name? And she said, John. And some of you have met John. And I said, oh, that's my shaman, let him in. And I thought her eyeballs were going to fall out on the floor. And I don't usually use that term because I like to use the specific terms for the cultures, but that was just too precious. And so in he walks into my room at 9 o'clock at night with these eagle fans. And so the next day, and I had one of the books there, and the next day the nurses asked me if I could put them if they could read them. And so I called the administrator in, and I put 3 copies of the book in the nurses' break room. And the rest of the 5 days I spent teaching and sharing. And it was, and that couldn't have happened without the heart attack. Touching those people, understanding for myself how precious being in this physical container is. I mean, there were just so many gifts, and people started messaging me, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I said, no. This is one of the greatest gifts I've had in a very long time. There's no sorry about it. So I said to the doctor, I said, I really got good care. I said, the nurses were coming in every 15 minutes to check on me. And he said, you didn't get good care. They were checking on you because we thought you were going to die any minute. And I said, no, I wasn't about to leave. So I think having humor and looking at all these things and saying, the universe has a sense of humor in that way, in the way it presents or answers our prayers. But, so I talked to Spirit and I said, that's it. That's it. I've done my job training doctors. We're done.
Yeah.
You got to find somebody else to pick this up. So I guess maybe it was you, Christopher.
Guess so, huh? Thank you for taking those steps before me.
You got to laugh. I told you earlier that my advice for everybody is 1, love unconditionally and have compassion, especially for yourself. 2, to look at life in a way that is miraculous, absolutely miraculous. Every moment of every day is a miracle. Just the fact that you're here. Next, take at least an hour of every day just to take care of yourself, just to love yourself. I don't care if it's a walk, a wonderful bath, reading a book. I don't care what it is, or go out in the woods and scream if that makes you feel good. But do something just for you. And last of all, don't worry, because when you're my age, you can't remember what you were worrying about when you were 30 or 40 years old. So just give it up. It's a waste of time.
Powerful words right there. So, I know you mentioned a little bit about this thing called books. And so you have 3 books officially, right?
That's right.
Wonderful. And 2 of them are best-selling books as well.
Right.
And the first one, Unicorns Are Real. Do you mind sharing a little bit about this first book of yours?
Well, early in my career, I taught special education most of the time, but before I taught special education, I had this little boy in my classroom, and he would tell the most fabulous stories. And one day he was telling a story about unicorns. And of course, I was young. I was like 20 years old. And I looked at him when he was all done and I said, you do realize that unicorns don't exist? And he looked at me with his big eyes and tears started rolling down his cheeks. And he said, yes, they do. Unicorns are real. So that's how the book got its title, was from this little boy. And in Unicorns Are Real, because I was a teacher, there are things for teachers and parents to do to help those students that have been labeled, that I refuse to label, other than their right brain, to learn, and to learn very quickly. And a lot of the indigenous people learn in different ways, and it's all about how your brain is organized. And so that's what Unicorns Are Real are about. Free Flight, I found that most of their parents had the same challenges that the children did. So I wrote exercises for their parents to do on organization and getting things done and balancing the checkbook, which of course now you just do it with an app. But at the time, we actually had checkbooks and had to balance them. And then Grandpa asked me to come out to the reservation, and for 2 weeks we taped him, and then he told me to edit it and put it into a book, and not to mention any gossip or anybody's names except the ones he gave permission for. And it is a book that has unbelievable information in it, but it also shows you how the mind of a Lakota medicine person works. And it's not sequential. It goes all over the place. You may read 4 pages and all of a sudden there's one sentence like life is a ceremony is one of the things he said over and over and over again. And he said, you can go to all the ceremonies you want, but if you don't live your life like a ceremony, you don't understand. And so, and then of course, the newest book, which is my experiences with everything from space beings to other realities, etc. And that's just to allow people to see that there is other realities out there. And of course, the first chapter is about my healing myself, because if you don't know my perspective, you really can't understand the rest of the book. For instance, do you see that fairy garden in the background there? My office is full of fairies and dragons and pain. Yeah. But this is my happy place.
I love connecting with fairy energy and guardian dragon energy. Man, especially the fairies. The fairies love to play. Like they'll grab some of your objects and they'll move it around a little bit, and then you'll be looking for it, and then you'll find it like under your bed or something. You'll be like, oh, how'd that get there? And the little fairies are just playing around. Gosh, I love them. So let's see here. Where was I? What was I about to touch on here? Oh yeah, I was going to ask you. So I see here that you have training in star knowledge from Mexico and Peru. So what have you really learned the most, and what has really connected for you through learning and being trained through the star knowledge?
Just information in that there are all kinds of star beings here. Most of them are compassionate and loving. There are a couple that aren't. But when you understand the fact that their planet is dying and they're looking for a new one, you don't see them as evil as much as you do as survival. I learned a lot about the galactic councils. I learned a lot about how to contact the different star nations. There's, to put it all into words in this podcast is, maybe I'll have to write another book. I am working on one called
Please.
Chasing Unconditional Love.
Oh, okay. We know what chasing does.
Yeah, a lot of people say, I forgive them and I'm going to put them out of my lives. They're in your life because you invited them there. And, forgiveness says that they did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard one for people to swallow. But I learned that early.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic in itself. But I've never really been the one to just kind of be like, oh, this person was related to me in this way, but now things are changing, so now I need to block you out of my life completely. I've just never really been that way. I always see it as like, hey, things change, things transition. I mean, if we still resonate in some type of function and we have respect for each other, so be it, and I just don't go to the edge of feeling like just because there was a certain label or dynamic that now there needs to be no interaction whatsoever, unless it's absolutely divinely meant to be that way. But I just don't go that way.
Well, we still have our triggers, and our triggers help us grow. It's when you get to the place that you realize that you're seeing the same kind of pattern, but you're not getting triggered, as long as you're not suppressing that emotion. But when you get to the place that you didn't even notice that it happened, then you've healed that aspect of yourself. And somebody said to me the other day, that was awful what they said about you. And I said, what did they say? Because I never heard it. It didn't register in my reality at all. So we really are extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of us create our own reality with the help of all the other beings, our ancestors, the angels, the spirits, whatever. We're all one. And when you realize that whenever I eat, I thank that meal for giving of its life so I can live. Because I also know that I'm taking that animal's experiences into my body. And so I'm very careful, about what I eat. My husband won't go to the grocery store with me because I go down the vegetable thing and put my hand out and feel the energy.
Yeah.
So I go and he goes, but we don't go together. He's a wonderful person, grounded. His sole job was to keep me on this earth to do what I needed to do. And that's what he does. And after 46 years, we're still very much in love. And love exists only when there are no expectations. You can't have expectations of anything. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a topic I've been talking about just naturally with people. Actually, I was talking to a couple of people about it at Serpent Mound for the summer solstice that just happened. You know, just talking about how expectations can be a really big catalyst and cause to the effect of, you know, things such as anger, resentment, frustration, being short-wired, and all these different things can definitely become pretty prevalent when we have a lot of expectations. And then I notice, like, when we let go of those expectations more, we're able to kind of be more in that unconditional and innocent mindset, so to say, of that inner childlike state. And with that inner childlike state, you know, you come across something or you receive something that you just totally was not expecting, and is basically like a surprise and a gift from life. And then you just have more of that, you know, that natural awe and that sensual connection through your senses with the bliss of the divine, and being able to be gifted in the moment of being present and having all this abundance of experience. And yeah, that's what it's really about.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, we don't even eat the same food. He cooks his supper, I cook my supper. We have, you know, our core values are the same, and we love each other deeply, but we do not, you know, have any expectations. You know, sometimes when he cuts down my herbs, I get a little upset, but you know, to him, they're a weed. To me, they're a medicine. So, you know, but that doesn't mean the relationship isn't beautiful.
Yes, man. You know, that's just such a powerful thing in itself, when we can truly and unconditionally accept each other, and be able to also know that, you know, you are uniquely and authentically who you are in your DNA and who you are in this vessel. And, you know, I am uniquely experiencing as this vessel and these traits. And when we can understand that with each other and not try to make somebody else be us, or try to make them fall in line with what we believe or want them to be, we can start to kind of see that, you know, there are specific ways, there are specific translations and avenues for each of us to be able to fully connect and be able to experience this life with the way that we are made. And it's not going to be the same for anybody. You know, there's going to be small to perhaps big traits that each of us will carry when it comes to our unique blueprint. And through that, and this is where things like, you know, our astrology and other things come in, is there are just certain things that are going to resonate better for the way our being is constructed. For example, some people do better with hot food and others do better with cold food. Some people do better with being introspective with the way that they release what they're going through. Others are more outrospective, where they kind of want more of a group support or another individual to hold them while they're going through their releasing process, compared to others that they just need a little bit of time to themselves, sit with their own spirit and let that energy flow. And, you know, when we can really just honor and love each other for what it is that we uniquely need for our own self when it comes to our well-being, our balance, and our journey, it makes it a lot of fun, and it makes it very open and really unconditional. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that the next component of that, a lot of people say we're all one. And so, but when you love yourself, since you are the universe, since you are every person on this planet, then you love everything, you know. But as long as there are pieces of yourself that you don't love, then there are mirrors in the universe that will show you those things. You know, we're really in the news media being challenged now with triggers, and you know, what do you react to? And you have to laugh at it, because what it's doing is showing us all that we are not above anybody else. You know, I tell people, yeah, people call me grandma because I'm whatever. But indigenous, you don't call yourself that. And you never call yourself a medicine person. I don't consider myself a medicine person. I consider myself a human being who's stumbling through this school to try to get at least past the course. and as I get older, having better understanding. But it starts with the fact that, you know, if I heal something, then I heal every person on this planet who has the same name of Barbara. I heal everyone who has the same birth date. I heal all of my ancestors, 7 generations in the past and 7 generations in the future. You know, I'm an ancestor to those that have not physically appeared here, but they still exist. And if I heal, that gives them a better chance. And yet, you know, it's hard to put into words. I know that in one of my near-death experiences, I went to this place that was like an ocean, and I was like a drop in that ocean, and there was nothing but me in the ocean, except the ocean was pure love and light, and it was like a white mist, and there was absolutely no separation. And nothing had any meaning except that love. Nothing. And I didn't want to come back. And when I came back, I went into a deep depression for almost 3 months because I wanted to go back and experience that love. And now the rest of my life has been about learning how to experience that love without leaving the 3D dimension. But there is no separation. That's the biggest lie out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you and I are one. We may be different expressions or different colors, but you know, it's just amazing. Just pure joy.
Yeah, you know, and that's profound in itself, especially with the separation aspect. I'm not going to get too deep and touch into this too much, because I don't really want to go into like a tangent about religion, but it's just interesting, the observation of when we think that we're separate from the Creator, compared to seeing it all as one. And, you know, I just reflect on different scripture, different text, and it's right there in the teachings, even through Yeshua. You know, Yeshua even says it, you know, we're the temple. We're the temple for the Creator to reside. And then also, you know, Father is in me and I am in the Father. All these different quotes, all these different teachings. And we see it from many different ascended masters, other figures and beings that have walked in this earth plane. The reminder that it's all connected. We're always all connected. And separation is something that you can experience as a temporary illusion. But you'll always come back to that remembrance at some point, whether it's through 5,000 years or one human lifetime. We're connected. And we're here. Mm-hmm.
I feel our connectedness.
Me too. It's been a beautiful podcast. I've had tears in the back of my eyes quite a bit. Wow. So I do have another question for you. And that question is, you're the director of the Meta Intelligence Institute. What is the Meta Intelligence Institute and how did you come across this?
Well, I have self-published a lot of my own books. I don't publish anybody else's. And I also do some certifications, but very small, and I don't advertise them. And you need a tax name. So you put all that together. But the meta simply means more than intelligence, more than what we think we are. But I started that back in 1980. So.
Wow, wonderful. And have you been doing teachings through it?
Have I been doing what?
Teachings? Have you been doing teachings through it?
Some, yes. Some. Like I have a Celtic one coming up soon, but it's almost full. It just depends. Right now, I'm just branching out into podcasts and things. And the end of this week, I'm doing the World UFO Conference and speaking about some experiences. But my belief systems come from experience. Yeah. If I experience something, then I've created it and I believe it. And then you get to be my age and it's like a puzzle that falls apart. And you have a whole new reality to believe in. So, like I said, you're seeing a side of me that I usually don't show. I'm usually very serious. And my head usually is on straight. And today it's just all over the place. But that's all right. It may not be me sitting here. It may be an AI.
Yep.
that just doesn't have it right yet. But for me, sense of humor is a great thing to have, because I know all the way through beyond imagination, I laugh at things that are happening because they are so off the wall and so out of my, that I just have to laugh because, I'm not going to go to fear. Fear creates a lot of the challenges we have, especially dis-eases. And,
I agree. So, wow, you're going to be going to the World UFO Conference, huh?
Again, I did not hear that. Remember my 87-year-old years.
So you're going to the World UFO Conference.
I still didn't hear it.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you're going to the World UFO Conference.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Where's that?
I'm presenting there on my experiences that I've had with 6 different species.
Amazing. What are those 6 species?
Oh. I've seen reptilians. I've seen blue people. I have seen other people. I have seen some that won't show their faces. I have seen some that look like just light beings, have no form. They look more like snowmen, only they're made of light. So I have seen, but I have been, the most important thing is I've been on board ship and can describe it in detail. And that's what I'll be doing, a lot of that at the UFO conference. Giving
Amazing.
Personal experience. And I'm sharing things with you that I don't share. I don't want to be locked up.
Hey, that's why I hold these spaces, I don't take it lightly, the opportunities that I create. And I just want people to be free in my spaces. I want them to be able to feel, a natural sense of just wholeness and being able to express and share the full aspects of who we are. I can come on here and try to make this a super zenful hippie environment and just try to act like it's all about just meditation and spirituality, but we also have these human beings, and we have human aspects and shadows and muddy stuff that we go through that help sharpen us and develop our senses of who we are. And that's what it's truly about for me, is giving us the spaces to really express that fullness and show everybody that, hey, yeah, maybe I have been doing holistic healing for 10 years. Maybe I have been doing shamanic walks for 30 years. But despite all that, I still have everyday human traits and everyday human things I go through. And you guys can be just as spiritually advanced as I am, and you can also be just as human as I am. And that's what it's really about for me in these spaces.
I really appreciate that. I know that years ago I was working with a young man who had severe cerebral palsy. And I work a lot with colors. And so I could have him hold different colors And when he held a specific color, all of his CP went away. So we had a pair of glasses made for him that were his color, and he put them on and he walked absolutely normally. He was like a different person. And he took the glasses off, put them on the ground, and stepped on them and said, "You don't understand. I volunteered to be like I am in order to heal others." And he was 17 years old.
Wow.
So to go around fixing everybody because you think they're not normal, you might want to think that. I never touch anyone unless I say to them, "Do you really want this? Are you willing to accept the responsibility of the changes this is going to make in your life?" And I had one person say to me, "No, because if you heal me, I will lose my Social Security disability and have no way to support myself." So, you know, I think allowing others to have their own domain, their own belief system, you know, is the greatest protection for most people, you know, because energy's energy. And if you take it away from one person, it has to go someplace, and sometimes it goes in you.
Yeah.
So stay out of your egos. Eliminate the words try, want. Want keeps it out into the future all the time. The word should, the word must. Remember, there are no victims. And don't worry, because you'll forget. And love yourself first. You know, and keep your sense of humor. If you can't laugh at yourself, what are you going to laugh at?
Definitely. That's for sure.
But I really appreciate you. You're young and amazing, and I'll just might have to come back just to see where you go.
Wow. Thank you. You know, like, it truly means a lot. It truly means a lot to hear that from you. It really does. Because, you know, as much as, you know, I don't see anybody as, you know, greater or less, I still do hold a reverence and I hold an honor to you for your walk as someone that is, at least, you know, in this physical incarnation of humanity, a current human elder of mine. And I thank you. I truly do. And I also wanted to share a little bit too, because I know you were talking about some of your extraterrestrial experiences. I've had quite a bit too. I've had a handful, and I've had a couple with draconian beings, and I've also had a couple with the archangels, and then I've also, so this was interesting. I was receiving a Reiki session in 2015. Yeah, it was 2015. And as I was receiving the Reiki session, I was laying down, I had my eyes closed, and then I haven't been the most clairvoyant through the years. It was more of like feeling and hearing and stuff like that. So what came through my mind's eye when I was receiving the Reiki was basically this standing lion humanoid, and it was a Lyran soul. And when it came to me, it had this like telepathic shift that took place. And after that interaction had happened, I then had started coming into this remembrance of my soul lineage, or my origin, so to say. And ever since, I had this really big activation in my DNA and in my consciousness of being directly connected with Lyra and feline Lyran humanoids. So I've definitely had my experiences as well. And yeah, the blue Syrian, you've seen like the blue Syrian people, the blue bird beings, the blue avians. Yeah.
Your voice has gone away again.
Oh, again. Of course.
Yep.
Well, with that being said, is there anything else that you feel called to sharing before we close out today?
Not really. I really appreciate those people who have enjoyed the books. And I would share that between each chapter, those are portals. What's written there is a portal, and Spirit dictated it to me. And so if you read it right before you go to sleep or meditate, it's really interesting. And so, although they were my experiences, I did not write the book. It just kind of wrote itself. And so a lot of the sentences and things came directly from Spirit. The energies in the chapter about South Dakota, every word is carrying the same energy as South Dakota ceremonies. And when I moved to Australia, then those energies changed, and all the energies in the chapter from Australia vibrate with the land of Australia. So it is to be aware of that. I think if you read it, it makes a lot more sense. And I'll just leave it to you. And it may not be for you, and it may be for you.
Thank you. And I will make sure for everybody out there that would like to read any of her books, I will have them posted down below in the description for you guys to be able to access through a direct link, so you guys can check it out if you would like. And as we close out, Grandmother Barbara, are there any services or anything that people can connect with you and reach out for?
Yeah, come to Serpent Mound in September. I'll be there in September. I didn't make it this last weekend, but I'll be there in September. And I'm very open and willing to talk to people at that time. So, and, you know, you can send me a Facebook message to be a friend. Just be sure that you also send a message telling me who you are, because I'll check you out. And if you haven't posted in a long time, you probably won't get a request, because I've been hacked a couple times, so I'm very leery on Facebook. So if you have a lot of friends that I also have, yes. You know, if they're your friend, then I know that you're very trusting. But,
Thank you.
that would be it. But yeah, I don't have the time to answer all the emails, etc. But yeah, they can also go to my webpage and send me a message there.
Wonderful. I will post your website down below in the description as well for people.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you again. Thank you so much for being willing to take this step in your first podcast and allow it to be with myself. It's a great honor. And I look forward to the continuous adventures that we have as we continue to explore, remember, and uplift each other into these beautiful remembrances of who we are as one.
Yeah. One thing to remember is if you came on here to listen to a very wise elder, what she's telling you is that you hold the wisdom. I'm just a human.
Well said. With that being said, I now close out this space, give honor and gratitude for all involved on every plane. Grateful for the mother and father, the balance. And may we all continue to flow and exactly where we need to be in this now moment. Wholeness and balanced love. Thank you all for tapping in. Have a blessed day.